Today, we are going to step into a world of ancient mysteries. We are going to talk about a book that most people have never held in their hands. It is a book that was hidden for a very long time. This book is called the Book of Jubilees. Have you ever wondered if there were missing pages in the story of the world? Have you ever felt like the early chapters of the Bible were missing a few details? If so, you are not alone. The Book of Jubilees was written to fill in those gaps. Many people call this book Little Genesis. Do not let the name fool you. It is not little because it is short. In fact, it is quite long. It has 50 chapters. It is called little because it covers the same ground as the Book of Genesis, but it does so with a different focus. It is like looking at a famous painting through a magnifying glass. Suddenly you see the brush strokes, you see the tiny details that you missed before, you see the secret layers of the story. The Book of Jubilees is a mysterious text. For centuries, it was excluded from the mainstream Bible. Think about that for a moment. The early leaders of the church sat in quiet rooms. They looked at many different scrolls. They had to decide which ones would become the official Word of God. When they looked at Jubilees, they were worried. They thought the secrets inside were too strange. They thought the focus on angels and spirits was too controversial. They were worried about the laws it contained. So they banned it. They kept it out of the common people. It was lost to the Western world for nearly 1,000 years. But the truth has a way of surviving. While the book was forgotten in Europe and the Middle East, one group of people kept it safe. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church never threw this book away. They saw it as a treasure. They kept it in their Bible. Because of their faithfulness, we can read it today. They preserved the ancient Ge'ez language version of the text. Because of them, we can learn about the cosmic perspective of history. What do I mean by cosmic perspective? Most history books tell the story of humans. They tell us about kings and wars and farmers. But the Book of Jubilees tells us how God sees the world from high above. It shows us that history is not just a series of accidents. It shows us that every event is part of a divine plan. It shows us that angels are not just floating in the clouds. They are busy. They are working. They are the guardians of time and the teachers of the law. In this guide, we will explore the secret map of history. We will look at how the world was made from a new angle. We will learn about the first laws given to Adam. We will see why the calendar we use today might be leading us into spiritual disorder. We will meet figures like Noah and Abraham, but we will see them in a way you have never seen them before. This is a story of mystery, hope, and the eternal plan of the Creator. Are you ready to see the world through the eyes of the angels? Let us begin our journey into the ancient past. The sacred structure of time. Imagine for a moment that the universe is a house. If you want a house to stand, the walls must be straight, the foundation must be level, the roof must fit perfectly. The Book of Jubilees tells us that time is exactly like that house. God did not just let the days happen by accident. He did not let the sun and moon wander without a plan. He gave time a structure. He made it a sacred structure. In the world today, most people follow a calendar based on the moon. We look at the moon as it grows and shrinks. We try to fit our months into its cycle. But the Book of Jubilees warns us that this is a dangerous path. It says that using the moon causes trouble. Why? Because the moon is irregular. It shifts. It does not stay in step with the sun. The book says that following the moon leads to spiritual disorder. It says that people who watch the moon will disturb the seasons. Can you imagine the confusion? If you follow the wrong clock, you will be late for your own wedding. If you follow the wrong calendar, you will celebrate God's holy days on the wrong days. The book calls these abominable days. They are days of testimony that have been moved out of their proper place. When people get the dates wrong, they fall out of alignment with God's will. They are no longer walking in step with the Creator. According to the Book of Jubilees, the correct calendar is a solar calendar. It is based entirely on the sun. This calendar is perfect. It is tidy. It is unchanging. It has exactly 364 days every single year. This number is very important. It is a number that can be divided perfectly into weeks. It ensures that the Sabbath, the seventh day of rest, always stays on the same date every year. The festivals never move. They are fixed like the stars. Here is how the sacred year is organized. The 4 seasons. The year is divided into 4 equal parts. We know them as spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The 13 weeks. Each season has exactly 13 weeks. Not 12, not 14, exactly 13. The 91 days. If you multiply 13 weeks by 7 days, you get 91 days. Every season has exactly 91 days. The 52 weeks. If you add the 4 seasons together, you get 52 weeks. This equals 364 days. This system is like a beautiful clockwork machine. It never skips a beat. God gave this calendar to the angels. The angels then gave it to the people of the earth. The book warns us that there will be people who make observations of the moon. They will think they are being clever, but they will only cause chaos. They will make the seasons jump around. They will make the holy days a mess. We can see the shadow of this ancient calendar in the Ethiopian calendar today. In Ethiopia, the year is divided into 12 months. Each of those months has exactly 30 days, but that only adds up to 360 days. So they have a 13th month. This month is called Pagum. It has 5 days or 6 days in a leap year. This system reminds us of the sacred time described in the Book of Jubilees. It reminds us that time is a gift. We must use it the way God intended. Why does this matter so much? Because time is the rhythm of our relationship with God. If we are out of rhythm, we cannot dance with the divine. If we follow the sacred structure, we find peace. We find balance. We stay in the light of the sun, rather than the shifting shadows of the moon. This is the first secret of the Book of Jubilees. God is the master of time, and His clock is perfect. 3. The first day of creation, the making of angels. When we read the common Bible, the story starts with the heavens and the earth. We see the light, the water, and the land. But the Book of Jubilees takes us behind the curtain. It tells us what happened before the ground was firm. It tells us about the very first things God made. On the first day of creation, before the first sunrise, God made the angels. Can you imagine that first day? The world was empty and dark. There were no birds singing. There were no trees swaying in the wind. There was only the voice of God. And with that voice, He brought forth millions of beings made of light and spirit. These were the angels. They were not made to just sit around. They were created to be the workers of the universe. They were the builders. They were the guardians. The Book of Jubilees tells us that there are different kinds of angels. Each kind has a specific job. They are like the different departments of a great kingdom. The angels of the presence. These are the highest angels. They stand very close to God. They see His glory every moment. They are the ones who carry His most important messages to humanity. The angels of sanctification. These angels are in charge of holiness. They help keep the world pure. They watch over the sacred laws and make sure they are respected. The angels of the weather. These angels have their hands on the controls of the earth. There are angels over the winds. They decide when the breeze is soft and when the storm is loud. There are angels over the clouds and the rain. They make sure the water falls where it is needed. The angels of the heavens. These are the cosmic drivers. God ordained that the sun should keep its course, but the angels are the ones who make it happen. They guide the sun through the divisions of the seasons. They keep the stars in their proper spots. They ensure that the moon, though it can be a source of confusion for humans, still follows its path. These angels are the invisible hands that hold the world together. The Book of Jubilees says that God did not just make the world and walk away. He stayed involved through his heavenly hosts. They are the messengers, they are the guardians of the laws, they are the teachers. On that first day, the heavens were suddenly filled with the sound of wings and the light of 1,000,000 spirits. The work of the universe had begun. The angels watched as God began to shape the earth. They saw the mountains rise. They saw the oceans fill. They were there for every step. This tells us that we are never truly alone. The angels of the presence are always watching. They are the link between our small lives and the vast glory of God. They remind us that the world is a holy place, and every breath of wind is a sign of their work. 4. The first Sabbath and the Jubilee cycles. After 6 days of work, the world was finished. The stars were in their places, the fish were in the sea, the animals were on the land. Then God did something that would change history forever. He made the 7th day. This is the Sabbath. In many books, the Sabbath is just a rule for humans. But in the Book of Jubilees, the Sabbath is a divine institution. It is an eternal law. The book tells us that this law was not invented later on. It was not a new idea for Moses. It was written on the tablets of heaven before the world was even finished. The Sabbath is the foundation of time. It is the heartbeat of all creation. Can you picture the very first Sabbath? God stopped his work, but he did not just sit in silence. He sanctified the day. He blessed it. And the Book of Jubilees tells us that the angels celebrated with him. The angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification kept the Sabbath in heaven. They sang songs of joy. They rested from their duties of guiding the stars and the winds. They saw that the work was good. The Sabbath is a sign of holiness for all of God's works. But the Sabbath is not just about 1 day a week. It is part of a much bigger system of rest and renewal. This is where the name of the book comes from. It is called the Book of Jubilees because it explains the Jubilee cycles. A Jubilee is a period of 49 years. It is a beautiful mathematical pattern. First, there is the week of years. This is a period of 7 years. 7 of these weeks of years make 1 Jubilee. 7 times 7 equals 49. The Jubilee is a time of great joy and reset. It is a time for the land to rest. The book says that even the earth needs a Sabbath. For a whole year, no one plants seeds, no one harvests crops. The soil gets to breathe. It gets to recover its strength. But it is also a time for people to be released. If someone had a debt they could not pay, it was forgiven. If someone had lost their home, it was returned to them. It was a way to make sure that no one stayed poor forever. It was a way to make sure that the world stayed in balance. The Jubilee cycles show us that God cares about justice. He cares about the health of the ground and the freedom of his people. He wants everything to be renewed. The Book of Jubilees tells us that this cycle of 49 years is how we should measure history. It is a divine schedule. It keeps the world from becoming too heavy with greed or exhaustion. Every Jubilee, the world starts fresh. It is a reminder that everything we have belongs to God. We are just stewards. We are just looking after it for a little while. The Sabbath and the Jubilee are the ways we say thank you to the Creator. They are the ways we keep our hearts aligned with the rhythm of heaven.
5. Adam, Eve, and the first laws. Now we come to the story of the very first humans. We know their names, Adam and Eve. We know they lived in the Garden of Eden. But the Book of Jubilees tells us something very important. It tells us that Adam was not just a gardener, he was a student, and his teachers were the angels. In the regular Bible, we see God talking to Adam, but in Jubilees, we see the angels of the presence acting as mediators. They were like older brothers to Adam. They walked with him in the cool of the day. They did not just talk about the weather, they taught him how to live. They gave him the first laws of the world. Many people think that the laws of God started with Moses and the 10 Commandments, but the Book of Jubilees says this is not true. The laws are eternal. They existed in heaven before the earth was made. Adam was the first human to receive them. Here are the specific things the angels taught Adam. The law of purity. They taught him how to keep his spirit and his body clean. They taught him that holiness is about how we present ourselves to God. The law of marriage. They taught him that the bond between a man and a woman is sacred. It is a covenant. It is a promise that should never be broken. The law of sacrifice. They taught him how to give gifts to God. This was not about God being hungry. It was about Adam showing his heart. It was about gratitude. The law of worship. They taught him how to pray. They taught him the holy language of heaven so he could speak to his Creator. There is a very detailed part of this story about the animals. In the second week of creation, God brought the creatures to Adam so he could name them. The Book of Jubilees gives us a specific schedule for this work. On the first day of the second week, Adam named all the beasts. He saw the lions and the elephants. He saw the tigers and the wolves. He gave them names that fit their nature. On the second day, he named the cattle. He saw the cows and the sheep. He saw the animals that would one day help humans with their work. On the third day, he named the birds. He watched them fly. He heard their songs. He gave names to the eagles and the sparrows. On the fourth day, he named everything that moves on the earth. This includes the small things, the earth movers like the lizards and insects. On the fifth day, he named everything that moves in the water. He saw the great whales and the tiny fish. He named the creatures of the deep. By the end of those 5 days, Adam knew the world. He was the king of the garden. He was in harmony with the animals. He was in harmony with the angels. The angels told Adam that these laws were part of an eternal covenant. A covenant is the strongest kind of promise. It is a bond that connects heaven and earth. Adam was the first person to carry this light. He was the first human to live according to the tablets of heaven. He knew that his life had a purpose. He knew that he was part of a cosmic order. Even though he would eventually lose the garden, the laws he learnt would stay with his descendants forever. 6.
The children of Adam, Cain, Abel, and Seth. The story of Adam's children is a story of great sadness and great hope. The first two sons were Cain and Abel. We know the tragedy. Cain grew jealous of his brother. His heart became dark like a room with no windows. He struck Abel and killed him. In the Book of Jubilees, this is more than just a family fight. It is described as the first major breach of God's law. It was a spiritual disaster. When Cain killed Abel, he was not just hurting a brother, he was attacking the divine order of the world. He was breaking the laws of purity and life that the angels had taught his father. Because of this sin, Cain was cast out. He became a wanderer. He lost his connection to the sacred calendar. He lost his connection to the light. But God did not let the story end there. He gave Adam and Eve another son. His name was Seth. Seth is a very important figure in the Book of Jubilees. While Cain was the line of rebellion, Seth was the righteous line. He was the one chosen to carry the torch of the law. Seth did not have to figure things out on his own. The angels came to him just as they had come to Adam. The angels of the presence taught Seth the sacred secrets. They taught him about the 364-day calendar. They taught him about the Sabbath. They taught him that he must write these things down. Seth became the first human to record the history of the world. He wrote about the creation. He wrote about the fall. He wrote about the laws of heaven. Because of Seth, the knowledge of God was not lost. He taught his children. He told them, "Do not follow the way of Cain. Do not follow the shadows. Walk in the light of the sun. Keep the weeks. Keep the Sabbaths." Seth was a bridge. He stood between the beginning of the world and the future. He ensured that there would always be a group of people on earth who remembered the Creator. He was the guardian of the covenant. Through Seth, the righteous line began to grow, waiting for the day when another great man would arise to lead the world.
7. Noah and the Great Corruption. As the centuries passed, the world became very crowded. There were many people now. Some followed the line of Seth and kept the laws, but many more followed the way of rebellion. They forgot the angels. They forgot the Sabbath. They forgot the Creator. And then something terrible happened. The Book of Jubilees calls it the Great Corruption. This corruption did not start with humans. It started in heaven. There were certain angels who looked down at the earth. They were called the Watchers. They saw that the daughters of men were beautiful. These angels made a terrible choice. They left their posts in heaven. They came down to earth and took human women as wives. This was a violation of the orders of the universe. It was like trying to mix fire and water. The children born from this union were the Nephilim. They were giants. They were massive, powerful, and terrifying. But they did not have the light of God in them. They had forbidden knowledge. Their fathers, the fallen angels, taught them things that humans were never meant to know. They taught them how to make weapons of war. They taught them how to use magic and charms. They taught them how to manipulate the world for their own greed. The world became a nightmare. The Nephilim were always hungry. They began to devour everything in sight. They ate the crops of the farmers. They ate the cattle in the fields. And when there was nothing left to eat, they began to devour each other. The Book of Jubilees says that lawlessness increased on the earth. All flesh corrupted its way. Can you imagine the terror? The birds, the beasts, and the humans were all acting against their nature. The orders of the world were broken. The
The ground was soaked with blood. The screams of the suffering reached all the way to heaven. The fallen angels had turned the garden of the world into a graveyard. God looked down, and his heart was filled with grief. He saw that the beauty he had made was being rotted from the inside. He knew he had to act. He had to cleanse the earth. He had to wash away the corruption so that a new start could begin. But he did not want to destroy everything. He looked for one man who still had the light of Seth in his heart. He found Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was perfect in his generations. This means he had not mixed with the fallen ones. He still kept the 364-day calendar. He still kept the Sabbath. He still listened to the voice of the true angels. Because Noah was faithful, God chose to save him. He told Noah to build the ark. He told him to prepare for the great washing of the world. The time of the giants was coming to an end. The time of the flood was near.
8. The Flood and the New Covenant. The windows of heaven opened. The fountains of the deep burst forth. For 40 days and 40 nights the rain fell with a fury that the world had never seen. The mountains were covered. The giants were swept away. The darkness of the corruption was drowned in the rising tide. But inside the ark, Noah and his family were safe. They were floating on the promise of God. When the water finally went down, the ark came to rest. Noah stepped out onto a world that was clean and quiet. It was like the first day of creation all over again. Noah built an altar. He offered a sacrifice to God to say thank you. The smell of the smoke rose to heaven, and God was pleased. God made a promise to Noah. He put a rainbow in the sky. It was a sign that he would never destroy the earth with water again. But this promise came with a new covenant. This covenant was a reminder of the laws given to Adam. God wanted to make sure that the corruption never happened again. Noah was given specific laws to live by. The law of blood. God told Noah that he must never eat meat with the blood still in it. Life is in the blood, the book says. Blood is sacred. It must be treated with respect. The law of sacrifice. Noah was taught the correct way to offer gifts. He was told which animals were pure and how to use fire and incense to reach the heart of God. The law of Sabbath. Noah was reminded that the seventh day is holy. He was told that even in a new world, the old rhythms of time must be kept. The law of purity. Noah was told to keep his family separate from the old ways of the fallen ones. He was told to teach his sons about the danger of evil spirits. Noah was a great teacher. He spent the rest of his life telling his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, about the history of the world. He told them about the tablets of heaven. He told them that if they stayed in step with the 364-day calendar, they would be safe. He warned them that the moon would try to lead them astray. Noah knew that the evil spirits of the giants were still around. Even though the giants were dead, their spirits remained. Noah prayed that God would protect his children from these shadows. God allowed some of the spirits to stay, but he gave Noah secret knowledge about how to heal sickness and how to stay strong against the darkness. Noah was the second father of humanity. He was the one who carried the laws of the old world into the new one. 9. Young Abraham and the Idols. Many years passed after the time of Noah. Once again, the world began to forget. People moved to a land called Ur. They began to build great cities,
But they also began to build false gods. They forgot the invisible God who made the stars. Instead, they made gods out of stone, wood, and gold. This brings us to the story of a young boy named Abraham. He was born into a family that had lost its way. His father, Terach, was a maker of idols. Can you imagine Abraham's house? It was filled with statues. There were big stone heads and small wooden figures. Terach told people that these statues could hear their prayers. He told them that if they gave the statues food and money, the statues would bless them. But Abraham was a clever boy. He looked at the idols with clear eyes. He saw the dust settling on their shoulders. He saw that they had eyes, but they never blinked. They had mouths, but they never spoke. They had hands, but they could never reach out to help a child who had fallen. Abraham felt a fire of questions burning in his chest. One day he went to his father. He asked, "Father, why do you worship these things? They are just images of stone. You carved them yourself. How can something you made be greater than you?" Terach was angry. He told Abraham to stop asking questions. He told him to be quiet and follow the traditions of their people. But Abraham could not be quiet. He was a revolutionary. One night he decided that he had seen enough. He waited until everyone was asleep. The air was still. The city was quiet. Abraham took a torch. He felt the heat of the flame near his face. He walked into the house where the idols were kept. The fire reflected in the cold stone eyes of the statues. Abraham did not hesitate. He set the wooden idols on fire. He watched the flames lick the statues. He watched as the false gods turned into charcoal and ash. He watched as the stone idols cracked and fell in the heat. The room was filled with smoke. The gods of Ur were burning. Abraham did not stay to see his father's face. He knew he could not live in a house of lies any longer. He fled into the wilderness. He had no food, he had no map. But as he looked up at the stars, he felt a strange peace. He knew that the God who made those stars was the true God. He had chosen the light over the darkness. He had chosen the truth over the wood and stone. This was the moment Abraham became the father of faith. He was alone in the desert, but the angels were already watching him.
10. Abraham's secret knowledge.
Abraham was not just a man who ran away from home. He was a man who was running toward the truth. The Book of Jubilees tells us that Abraham did not just stumble into his knowledge of God. He was taught. He was a student of the heavens. In the wilderness, Abraham was not alone for long. The angels of the presence, the same ones who taught Adam and Seth, came down to him. They spoke to him in the quiet of the night. They opened his eyes to see things that no one else in Ur could see. Abraham was taught from the tablets of heaven. These are not made of stone like his father's idols. They are cosmic records. They hold the timeless code of the universe. The angels taught Abraham how to read these tablets. They taught him the holy language of the beginning. Here is what Abraham learnt in his heavenly classroom. The secret of the calendar. He learnt the 364-day cycle. He learnt how to tell the time by the stars and the sun, not the shifting moon. The laws of purity. He learnt how the angels keep themselves holy in heaven. He learnt how to live a life that was set apart. The mystery of sacrifice. He learnt the deep meaning of giving to God. He learnt that a sacrifice is a way to bridge the gap between earth and heaven. The history of the world. The angels told him the true story of the giants, the flood, and the righteous line of Seth. Abraham became a revolutionary figure because he had this knowledge. He did not follow the crowds. He did not care what the kings of the earth thought. He lived as if he were already standing in the presence of God. He observed the Sabbath perfectly. He followed the laws of food and clothing. He was the first person in many generations to live in perfect alignment with the sacred structure of time. Because he was faithful, God made him a promise. He told Abraham that his children would be as many as the stars in the sky. He told him that through him, all the families of the earth would be blessed. Abraham was the bridge. He took the secret knowledge of the past and prepared it for the future. He was the guardian of the light in a world that was still very dark.
11. The Covenant of Circumcision. When Abraham was an old man, God came to him with a final test of commitment. This is the story of the covenant of circumcision. In many Bibles, this is just a sign of a promise, but in the Book of Jubilees, it is much more. It is an eternal ordinance. It is a cosmic law. The book says that this law was not something God just thought of for Abraham. It was already written on the heavenly tablets. It was something the angels knew about from the beginning. It was a physical mark that showed a spiritual truth. The law was very specific. Every male child had to be circumcised on the 8th day, not the 7th, not the 9th, the 8th. Why? Because the number 8 represents a new beginning. It is the day after the first week of life. It is the start of a new cycle. By performing this act on the 8th day, the family was saying, "This child belongs to the sacred time. He is part of the divine order." The Book of Jubilees says that this sign separates the Holy Family from the rest of the world. It is a mark that the angels can see. It shows that the person is part of the righteous line. It is a shield against the corruption of the fallen ones. Abraham did not argue. He did not hesitate. Even though he was 99 years old, he circumcised himself. He circumcised his son Ishmael. He circumcised all the men in his house. When his son Isaac was born, he circumcised him on the 8th day, exactly as the law required. This was a major moment in the history of the world. It was the moment the cosmic law became a part of human flesh. It was a way of saying that even our bodies belong to God. We are not our own. We are part of a plan that is older than the mountains. Abraham's obedience ensured that his descendants would always carry a reminder of their duty to the Creator. They would always be marked for holiness. 12. Prince Mastema and the binding of Isaac. Now we come to the most dramatic story in the life of Abraham. It is the story of the binding of Isaac. God told Abraham to take his beloved son Isaac to a mountain. He told him to offer Isaac as a sacrifice. This is a story that has made people wonder for thousands of years. How could a loving God ask for such a thing? The Book of Jubilees gives us the answer. It shows us what was happening behind the scenes. This was not just a test of a father's love. It was a spiritual war. In this book, we meet a figure named Prince Mastema. He is the leader of the evil spirits. He is the one who took the spirits of the giants and turned them into a force for darkness. Mastema is the accuser. He hates Abraham because Abraham is righteous. He hates Abraham because Abraham follows the sacred calendar. Mastema went before God. He had a cold, mocking voice. He said, "Abraham does not really love you. He only follows you because you gave him a son.
If you ask him for that son, he will turn his back on you. He will curse your name. He will show the world that your covenant is weak. Mastema was trying to trap Abraham. He wanted to destroy the righteous line. God allowed the test, not because he wanted Isaac to die, but because he wanted to prove Mastema wrong. He wanted to show the whole heavenly host that Abraham's faith was unshakable. Abraham took Isaac up the mountain. His heart was heavy like a stone. Every step felt like a mile. He loved his son more than life itself, but he trusted the Creator even more. He built the altar. He laid the wood. He bound Isaac. He picked up the knife. The angels in heaven were watching with great tension. Can you imagine the silence in the heavenly courts? Even the stars seemed to stop moving. Mastema was smiling, waiting for Abraham to fail. But at the very last second, a voice shouted from the sky. It was an angel. "Abraham, stop!" The angel grabbed his hand. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now it is shown that you fear the Lord." Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the bushes. He sacrificed the ram instead. Mastema was defeated. His plan to break the covenant had failed. Goodness had triumphed over evil. This story shows us that when we are tested, there is often a bigger battle going on than we can see. God is not trying to hurt us. He is proving that his light in us is stronger than the darkness of Prince Mastema.
13. Jacob and Esau, the two nations. Abraham had a son named Isaac. Isaac had a wife named Rebekah. For a long time they had no children. They prayed to God, and finally Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But this was no ordinary pregnancy. The babies fought inside her. They struggled and kicked as if they were already at war. Rebekah was worried. She went to seek the Lord. She asked, "Why is this happening to me?" God gave her a prophecy that is central to the Book of Jubilees. He said, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples will be separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger." This was part of a cosmic design. The two babies were named Esau and Jacob. Esau was the first to be born. He was red and hairy. He grew up to be a hunter. He was a man of the fields. He was wild and impulsive. The Book of Jubilees says that Esau represented a line of rebellion. He did not care about the ancient laws. He did not care about the Sabbath or the sacred calendar. He lived for the moment. Jacob was born second, holding on to Esau's heel. He was a quiet man. He stayed at home. He studied the stories of his grandfather Abraham. He wanted to know the laws of the angels. Jacob was the righteous line. He was the one chosen to carry the covenant. The struggle between the brothers was not just about a family birthright. It was about the future of the world. One day, Esau came home from hunting. He was starving. Jacob had made a bowl of red lentil soup. Esau said, "Give me that soup or I will die." Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright first." Esau didn't care. He sold his future for a bowl of soup. In the Book of Jubilees, this is not a trick. It is a revelation of Esau's heart. He did not value the things of God. Later, when it was time for the blessing, Jacob received it from Isaac. This was meant to be. It was written on the heavenly tablets. Jacob had to be the leader.
He had to be the one to pass on the laws of the angels. Esau's descendants became the nation of Edom. They became the long-term enemies of Jacob's descendants, the Israelites. The Book of Jubilees shows us that this conflict is part of the great struggle between those who follow the light and those who follow their own desires. Jacob was chosen not because he was perfect, but because his heart was turned toward the sacred structure of the world.
14. Jacob the Lawkeeper. Jacob is often called the custodian of the commandments. After he received the blessing, he had to flee from his brother's anger. He went on a long journey. One night he stopped to sleep. He used a stone for a pillow. That night he had a vision that changed everything. He saw a ladder. The bottom was on the earth, and the top reached all the way to heaven. He saw angels going up and down. This was a sign that the connection between the worlds was still open. God spoke to Jacob and confirmed the covenant of Abraham. But the Book of Jubilees tells us that Jacob received more than just a promise. He received instructions. He was told that he was the guardian of the heavenly tablets. He was told to keep the Sabbath holy. He was taught the exact dates for the festivals, according to the 364-day calendar. Jacob took this duty very seriously. He was a very careful man. When he had his own family, he made sure they followed the laws of purity. He taught them how to wash and how to pray. He taught them that they were a set-apart people. Jacob lived a long and difficult life. He worked for many years in a foreign land, but he never forgot the calendar. He never forgot the Sabbath. He was like a lighthouse. No matter how dark the world around him became, he kept the light of the law burning. He knew that he was not just a shepherd, he was the keeper of the divine order. Because of Jacob, the timeless code of the angels was passed down to the next generation. He was the bridge between the fathers and the nation that was about to be born. 15. The 12 sons and their destinies. Jacob had 12 sons. In many stories, these are just 12 brothers who argue and travel. But in the Book of Jubilees, the birth of these 12 sons was a cosmic event. They were not born by accident. Their names and their roles were already written in the stars. The book tells us that God followed a divine schedule for their births. Each son was born at a specific time that aligned with the sacred calendar. They represented the 12 months of the year. They were the foundation of the nation of Israel. Here are the 12 sons and the destiny associated with them. Reuben, the firstborn. He was meant to be the leader, but his destiny changed because of his actions. Simeon, a man of strength. Levi, the one chosen for the priesthood. His destiny was to be close to God. Judah, the one chosen to be the prince. From him would come the kings. Dan, a judge for his people. Nephthalim, a messenger. Gad, a warrior. Asher, a bringer of food and blessings. Issachar, a man of the land and hard work. Zebulun, a man of the sea and trade. Joseph, the Savior who would go to Egypt. Benjamin, the beloved youngest brother. The Book of Jubilees stresses that their births were written on the heavenly tablets. This means that before they were even conceived, God had a plan for them. He knew who would be a priest. He knew who would be a king. He knew who would be a savior. This tells us something beautiful about God's plan. It is not random. It is not messy.
It is a divine schedule. Every person has a place. Every life has a timing. The 12 sons of Jacob were like the 12 pillars of a great temple. Together, they would carry the weight of the future. They were the chosen line that would show the world back to the Creator. 16. The sin of Reuben and the rise of Judah and Levi. Even in the most holy families, things can go wrong. Jacob's oldest son was Reuben. As the firstborn, he should have been the most important. He should have inherited the double portion. He should have been the priest and the king. But Reuben committed a grave sin. The Book of Jubilees is very strict about this. He violated the laws of purity in a way that could not be ignored. It was a violation of the divine order. Reuben allowed his desires to overcome his duty to the covenant. Because of this sin, Reuben's name was removed from the list of leaders. He was not reckoned in the inheritance of leadership. This was not just Jacob's decision. The book says it was ordained on the heavenly tablets. Reuben had disqualified himself from the holy work. So the leadership had to be split. God chose 2 other brothers to take Reuben's place. Judah was chosen to be the prince. He was given the role of tribal leader. From his line, the great kings would come. He was the one who would hold the scepter. He represented the power of the nation. Levi was chosen for the priesthood. He was set apart to be the spiritual leader. He would be the one to handle the holy things. He would be the one to speak to God on behalf of the people. This was a very important moment. It showed that being born first does not guarantee a blessing. Holiness is what matters. Obedience is what matters. Judah and Levi were chosen because it was God's eternal law. This division between the prince and the priest became the structure of the nation of Israel. It was a way to make sure that power was balanced. It was a way to make sure that both the physical needs and the spiritual needs of the people were met. Reuben's sin was a tragedy, but God used it to create a new and better order for his people.
17. Levi's eternal priesthood. In many books, the priesthood starts with Moses and his brother Aaron. But the Book of Jubilees tells a different story. It says that the priesthood of Levi was an eternal mandate. It started long before the mountain of Sinai. Levi was chosen because of his heart. The book says he was set apart to offer sacrifices and to mediate between the people and the Lord. A mediator is like a bridge. He stands in the middle. He reaches one hand toward God and the other hand toward the people. They bring them together. Levi's life was holy. He was taught the secrets of the altar by his father Jacob and his grandfather Isaac. In fact, Isaac gave Levi a special blessing. He told Levi that he would be like the angels of the presence. He would be allowed to stand in the holy places where others could not go. Levi's tribe did not get land like the other brothers. They did not have farms or cities of their own. Why? Because the Book of Jubilees says that God was their portion. Their whole life was about the sanctuary. Their whole life was about the 364-day calendar. They were the ones who had to make sure the festivals were kept on the right days. They were the guardians of the time. This shows us that the spiritual life is the most important work of all. There must always be someone to keep the flame of the truth burning. There must always be someone to pray. There must always be someone to remind the people of the laws of heaven. Levi was that person. His priesthood was not just a job, it was a cosmic duty. He was the link that kept the nation of Israel connected to the heart of the Creator. 18. Joseph's betrayal and the cosmic sin. We all know the story of Joseph and his coat of many colors. He was Jacob's favorite son. He had dreams that his brothers would one day bow down to him. His brothers hated him for it. Their hearts were filled with the poison of jealousy. One day they saw Joseph coming toward them in the fields. They said, "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him." They didn't kill him, but they did something almost as bad. They threw him into a deep, dark pit. Then they sold him to slave traders for 20 pieces of silver. They told their father that Joseph had been eaten by a wild beast. In the Book of Jubilees, this is not just a family argument, it is a cosmic sin. The book says that the brothers transgressed the eternal laws. They were trying to destroy a man whom God had chosen for a great destiny. Their sin was so serious that it was recorded on the heavenly tablets. The angels were shocked. They looked down from heaven and saw the brothers selling their own flesh and blood. The book says that this act of betrayal brought a dark cloud over the whole family. It was decreed that because of this sin, their descendants would have to suffer. The slavery in Egypt was the consequence of this betrayal. This is a very deep lesson. Our actions do not just affect us, they ripple out into the future. They are written in the records of heaven. The brothers thought they were just getting rid of a pesky brother. They did not realize they were changing the history of their nation. They did not realize they were opening the door for Prince Mastema to bring hard bondage upon their children. Joseph's betrayal was a cosmic crime, and it would take a cosmic miracle to fix it.
20. The hard years, slavery in Egypt. Joseph lived a long life, but eventually he died. A new king arose in Egypt. This Pharaoh did not remember Joseph. He did not care about the famine or the Savior. He saw that the Israelites were becoming many. He was afraid they would take over his country, so he made them slaves. The Book of Jubilees calls this the hard bondage. The people were forced to build great cities of brick and stone. They worked under the burning sun. They were beaten by the Egyptian masters. It was a time of great darkness and pain. But the book tells us that this was not a surprise to God. It was a cosmic prophecy. Centuries before, God had told Abraham that his children would be oppressed in a foreign land. This was a time of testing. It was a time of purification. During these hard years, Prince Mastema was very active. He was the one who stood against the Israelites. He encouraged the Egyptians to be even crueler. He wanted to break the spirit of the people. He wanted them to forget the Sabbath. He wanted them to stop following the sacred calendar. Mastema wanted to destroy the covenant once and for all. But the more the people were oppressed, the more they cried out to God. They remembered the stories of Abraham. They remembered the tablets of heaven. They kept the promise alive in their hearts. The slavery in Egypt was like a furnace. It was hot and painful, but it was melting away the old ways and preparing the people for something new. God was watching. The angels were waiting for the appointed time. The 400 years were almost up. The deliverer was coming.
21. The 10 Plagues and Spiritual War. God saw the suffering of his people. He chose a man named Moses to be his messenger. Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "The Lord God of Israel says, 'Let my people go.'" Pharaoh was proud. He said, "Who is this Lord? I do not know him. I will not let the people go." Then the plagues began. In the Book of Jubilees, these 10 plagues are more than just bad luck for Egypt. They are a spiritual war. Each plague was a direct attack on the false powers of Egypt. The water to blood. This showed that God was greater than the gods of the river Nile. The frogs and insects. This showed that God controlled all the creatures of the earth. The darkness. This was a strike against the Egyptian sun god. It showed that the god of the 364-day solar calendar was the true master of light. The death of the firstborn. This was the final blow. It showed that only God has the power over life and death. The Book of Jubilees tells us that Prince Mastema tried to stop Moses. He helped the Egyptian magicians do their tricks. He tried to harden Pharaoh's heart so he would never give in. It was a cosmic battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. But Mastema's power was limited. God's power was infinite. One by one, the gods of Egypt were proven to be nothing. They were false powers unable to stand before the Almighty. The plagues were like a great hammer breaking the chains of slavery. Finally, after the 10th plague, Pharaoh's pride was broken. He told the Israelites to leave. The spiritual war was won. The God of Abraham had defeated the prince of evil spirits.
22. The Exodus and the perfect timing. The night the Israelites left Egypt is called the Exodus. In the Book of Jubilees, the timing of this night is the most important detail. It did not happen on a random day. It happened on the appointed time. The book says that the Exodus took place on the 14th day of the first month. Why is this date so special? Because it had been fixed since the beginning of creation. It was written on the heavenly tablets before the world was made. God had a schedule for the freedom of His people, and He kept it to the very second. The Exodus proves that the 364-day calendar is the true clock of God. By leaving on that specific day, the Israelites were aligning themselves with the divine rhythm. They were moving in step with the heavens. This day became the Passover. It was a day to remember how the angel of death passed over the houses of the Israelites. But for the Book of Jubilees, it is also a day to remember the sacred structure of time. When the people celebrate Passover, they are saying, "We follow the sun, we follow the tablets, we follow the God of the seasons." The Exodus was the birth of a nation, and it was a birth that happened exactly on time. It shows us that God is never early and He is never late. He is the master of the cosmic timeline.
23. Moses and the heavenly tablets. After leaving Egypt, the people traveled through the desert. They came to a great smoking mountain called Mount Sinai. Moses went up into the clouds. He stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights. This is where he received the law. In the Book of Jubilees, this was not the moment the laws were created. The laws were already ancient. They were the timeless code that had been written on the heavenly tablets even before the foundation of the world. Moses was the human recipient. He was the one chosen to bring the heavenly reality down to earth. The angels were the ones who spoke to him. They revealed the laws to him. They told him, "Write these things down. Tell the people to keep the Sabbath. Tell them to follow the 364-day calendar. Tell them the laws of purity." The laws were like a map.
They were designed to guide the people back to the holiness of the Garden of Eden. They included the rules for worship and sacrifice, the laws for the priests, the tribe of Levi, the 10 Commandments, the detailed instructions for the festivals and the Jubilee cycles. Moses saw the angels of heaven keeping the same laws. He realized that when humans obey God, they are joining in the life of heaven. The law was not a burden, it was a gift. It was the way for a small human nation to live in harmony with the vast cosmic universe. The tablets were the foundation of the new world. They were the eternal ordinance that would protect the people from the darkness of Prince Mastema forever.
24. The future of the world, prophecy and judgment. The Book of Jubilees does not just look at the past, it looks into the future. It tells us that history is a predetermined timeline. Everything that will happen to the children of Israel was already written on the heavenly tablets. The book predicts that the people will not always be faithful. It says there will be times when they forget the 364-day calendar. They will follow the moon. They will forget the Sabbath. They will forget the laws of Levi. This will lead to times of war, exile, and sadness. This time of trouble is called the Great Tribulation. It is a period where the nation is punished for its rebellion. But the Book of Jubilees says that this trouble has a purpose. It is meant to purify the people. It is meant to make them tired of the darkness so they will turn back to the light. The prophecy says that in the end of days, the children of Israel will turn back to the Lord with all their hearts. They will start to keep the sacred calendar again. They will start to walk in holiness. When this happens, God will gather them from all over the world. He will bring them back to their land. This shows us that history is moving toward a goal. It is not just going in circles, it is a path. The redemption of the people is already fixed in the heavenly records. Justice is coming. The wicked will be judged, and the righteous will be restored. The cosmic schedule is moving toward a grand finale where the truth will finally be revealed to everyone. 25. The final battle and the Messianic kingdom. At the very end of the timeline, there is a final battle. This is the ultimate defeat of the forces of darkness. The Book of Jubilees tells us that the angels of the Lord will descend from heaven. They will be the agents of divine justice. Their first job will be to deal with Prince Mastema. The leader of the evil spirits will be bound and cast into the abyss. Can you imagine that moment? The Prince of Shadows, who has caused so much pain since the time of the giants, will be locked away. He will be silenced forever. His power over the hearts of men will be broken. Then the Messianic kingdom will begin. This is a time of perfect peace and righteousness. The book says that the law will finally be written on the hearts of the people. They will not need a book to tell them what to do. They will love the truth because it is a part of them. In this kingdom, the world will be restored to the beauty of Eden. No more sickness. The bodies of the people will be healthy and strong. No more war. The swords will be turned into farming tools. The nations will no longer fight. The lake of fire. The wicked, those who chose the darkness and refused to repent, will be cast into a lake of fire. They will be destroyed forever, so they can never hurt the world again. Eternal life. The righteous will live forever with God and the angels. They will inherit the earth and rule in peace. The Messianic kingdom is the restoration of the divine order.
The 364-day calendar will be the only calendar. The Sabbath will be a day of total joy. The cosmic vision of God will finally be realized on earth. Peace will reign forever and ever. This is the goal of the entire story of Jubilees. Everything from the first day of creation was leading to this moment of victory.
26. The Eternal Plan. We have finished our journey through the secrets of the Book of Jubilees. We have seen the world from the perspective of the angels. We have learned about the sacred structure of time and the hidden laws of the fathers. What is the main message of this ancient book? It is this: nothing is an accident. Your life is not a series of random events. The movements of the stars, the changing of the seasons, and the history of nations are all part of a cosmic vision. Everything is part of an eternal plan that was written on the heavenly tablets before the world began. The Book of Jubilees gives us a message of incredible hope. It tells us that even when the world seems chaotic and dark, God is in control. He has a calendar. He has a schedule. He has His angels watching over us. He has a plan to defeat evil and restore the world to peace. The book reminds us to value sacred time. It tells us to stop and rest on the Sabbath. It tells us to be pure in our hearts and our bodies. It tells us to stay in step with the divine rhythm of the sun. Most of all, it tells us that the covenant between God and man is eternal. It can never be broken. Thank you for exploring these ancient mysteries with me today. I hope these insights have helped you see the world in a new way. Keep seeking the truth. Keep looking at the stars with wonder. Keep your heart open to the eternal plan of the Creator. Until next time, may you walk in the light of the sacred laws and find peace in the divine order of the universe.